This is the most recent tier list on all the classes in deadrails, from the worst class to the best class in the game. I'm doing one tier list for Nightmare and one tier list for normal mode. These are overall rankings counting both solo and multiplayer, and whether they are good for early and late game. Bond price is not a deciding factor. First is none. Now technically this class does deserve some credit. If you didn't start with it, then you would not be able to play a game. But jokes aside, it's D tier. Next is Horse, the April Fool's class, which is no longer obtainable. It turns the player into a horse. And surprisingly, it's not that bad for Nightmare. You still start with a shovel and you have the benefit of horse speed. This means you're fast enough to avoid quick zombies. A player can also put a saddle on you, but as of now you cannot ride the horse class. Might be fixed at some point. Anyway, Horse has the major disadvantage of no natural health regeneration, so you need bandages. But in Nightmare there is already no health regeneration, so it's irrelevant. On the Nightmare tier list, Horse gets a B tier. The speed can greatly help you. But in normal mode, Horse is D tier because natural healing is gone with this class. Next is the Doctor. He starts with 2 bandages and 2 snake oils, which are essentials. Now if you want to, you can sell your starting gear for a great amount of cash early game. However, I recommend you at least keep the bandages. They do not sell for as much as snake oil, and healing is greatly needed in early game. Doctor does have the advantage of being able to revive teammates without a bandage, but you lose half your health when doing this. So in Nightmare that ability is kind of pointless. Without natural health regeneration, you're just going to have to use bandage anyway. In Nightmare, Doctor gets B tier, great starting gear. In normal, it's the same, B tier. Arsonist spawns with 4 Molotovs and double fire damage. This is a good class in Nightmare since enemies have more health. You need the extra fire damage for Molotovs to reliably one-shot groups of zombies. Arsonist is good at clearing villages, and surprisingly, its Molotovs do considerable damage to high-health werewolves. His fire damage is good for early and late game. This class deserves an A tier, both in Nightmare and in normal. Next is Miner.
I am Steve.
This class has been upgraded with the addition of ores. Miner can destroy an ore in 2 seconds and make you rich in money and fuel. The extra coal, silver, and gold ores will greatly benefit throughout most of the run, though you may not need ores anymore by the time you're near the end. The mining helmet provides much needed light during nighttime. Miner is an easy A tier Nightmare. In normal, is still A, although slightly lower because money and fuel are more common. The Alamo. This class starts with a helmet, 3 sheet metals, and 3 barbed wires. These are great at defending the train. Use the barbed wires to damage any zombie that climbs on train. Metal sheets can be used to defend the engine car and block its windows. And the helmet is useful because it protects you from outlaw headshots. It's all starting gear basically, so it's mainly good for early. This class is B tier, both in Nightmare and in normal modes. Next, Cowboy. Spawns with a revolver, 2 ammo packs, and a tamed horse. I recommend having a revolver in early game Nightmare, so with this class you already have one. No need to spend the starting money on one. You can go for all coal and a bandage. And the horse is also very useful. Cowboy is very good for early game, especially at raiding the first village. You can find lots of valuables here and even bonds. Cowboy must get the A tier, in Nightmare and normal modes. Next is High Roller. It collects 50% more money, but is more likely to be struck by lightning. You can get a great start with this class. I bought a revolver, 2 revolver ammos, 1 coal, and a bandage. And in Nightmare, valuables are not as common, so extra money is greatly useful in early and mid game. By the time you're near the end, however, you're likely stocked up on everything you need, especially in solo, so this class becomes less useful later on. In Nightmare, I'll give it A tier, but in normal mode, I can't give it higher than B tier when in my normal runs, I end up with thousands of dollars even without it. Next is Priest, immune to lightning and starts with 2 crucifix and 2 holy water. In Nightmare, this class is not as good. With increased enemy health, the crucifix can no longer one-shot a werewolf. That's usually what I use them for. The holy water is great for clearing villages, but as you can see here, it did not work well against the werewolf. Lightning immunity is convenient, however, so in Nightmare, I'll give it B tier. In normal, it gets A tier, because the enemies are not too strong for the crucifix. Vampire. This class has increased movement speed and melee damage. It spawns with a vampire knife, but takes damage in sunlight. In Nightmare, that is horrible, because you can't eat and actually heal, so that solar damage is going to be permanent without bandages. If it weren't for the vampire knife, which can heal you per hit. That absolutely saves Vampire in Nightmare. And also, speed and melee damage makes almost every enemy easy. Villages are incredibly easy. Nighttime is incredibly easy. Not even the werewolves are a threat. Even the lab raid is easy. I soloed it without a gun. Look how fast I got all of these zombies. This class is insanely strong, but it's mainly built for taking on areas with lots of enemies. Without using the vampire knife, you'll notice that the sun damage is stacking up real fast. In Nightmare, it gets high A tier. In Normal, it gets S tier. Because of natural health regen, it's okay to make some mistakes with sun damage. Survivalist. The lower your health, the more damage you do. It spawns with 2 melee weapons, a shovel, and a tomahawk. Except it doesn't actually end there. It does more damage by default, even at full health, which is great in Nightmare because of increased enemy health. With a revolver, you could 2-shot zombies with headshots, maybe even 1-shot if you're low enough on health. In Nightmare, you can't naturally regenerate health, so with this class you're going to have that permanent extra damage until you decide to heal. So if you're comfortable with low health, you'll be really ammo efficient. This class is very strong in Nightmare, it deserves S tier. In Normal, it's still S tier. Next is Zombie. This class can eat dead bodies to heal, but can no longer use bandages and snake oils, though it's less detected by enemies. This class is pretty horrible in Nightmare because there is no natural health regeneration. So with no bandages or snake oils, the only way to get your health back is eat zombies, and the healing is not good. An entire zombie barely heals you. I had to eat like 10 zombies to get almost full health back, and that would have made great fuel, so if you don't get perfect luck and randomly find coal, you're screwed. Now there are a lot of zombies to eat in villages, and also less detection makes it easier to raid villages, but honestly not that much easier, and the most painful part is walking into a doctor building and seeing a bunch of bandages and snake oils you can't use. This class is worse than none in Nightmare, D tier, but I suppose it's slightly better in normal mode, still D tier. Ironclad. Starts with a full set of armor which would normally cost $375. This class has recently received an update. It is now faster. They have reduced the 20% speed reduction down to a mere 10%. Also, you can now drop your armor, so if you wanted to, you can have an Ironclad teammate join the server, give you their armor, and leave. Now you have a free Ironclad set without the speed reduction. You cannot sell the armor though. Due to the upgrades, this class is an easy A tier in Nightmare. The damage resistance is insanely useful. In Normal, it's still A tier. Last is Conductor. Spawns with 2 coal and drives a train much faster, but you do not get a shovel. So if you don't buy a gun early game, you're pretty defenseless. Luckily this class has been improved. It used to have half health, now it has normal health. That means it's actually safe to take on enemies now as Conductor. Also it's great in Nightmare because with more speed, the train is more fuel efficient, and loot is more rare in Nightmare. So for Nightmare, Conductor gets a high B tier. In Normal, it's a lower B tier. Remember, no shovel is inconvenient.